Hey.
Hi.
Well, we lost the keys, so we're recording this at 5 in the morning.
I lost the keys.
I've lost the keys before.
No, you haven't.
No, my problem is I just don't know if we own anything. Do we own scissors? Maybe.
Maybe.
Do we own a fridge? It's probably in the bathroom. Anyway, we just got out of Unsane, the new Steven Soderbergh movie that's experimental Soderbergh, which is my favorite Steven Soderbergh.
It was very experimental.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite kind of Steven Soderbergh. If it's some stuff like Schizopolis or Full Frontal, or the one he did with the porn star. God, I can't remember. But anyway, so this movie, it stars Claire Foy as a woman who has in the past dealt with a stalker, and she's had to move, change her phone number, email. She takes her lunch break at different hours of the day, and you can see how very severely it's affected her mental state and her life, her personal life, as well as her work life. So she goes to see a therapist, and one thing leads to another. She ends up signed in to be committed. And where the experimentation comes in with this movie is that it's shot, I believe, it's shot on an iPhone. And I thought that was really cool, actually. It gave it a really raw feeling to it. It gave it a really claustrophobic feeling to it.
It was very up close.
Yeah.
Because I asked you, I leaned over to you and I was like, is it just me or is this really low quality? Because I was surprised that this was theatrical because how low quality it was.
Should have leaned over like, yes, honey, because I directed it.
No, like I leaned over, like, is this low quality to me? And then you're like, no, I believe it was shot on an iPhone. And I was like, oh, That makes so much sense.
And I really liked what they did there. They still did a lot of clever camera work with everything. It's very up close. It makes you feel very uneasy as you're watching it, and it leads to the tension that this character is going through, and also the situation in and of itself. And I feel like I just sat through Cure for Wellness again.
Yeah, except for a little more.
The acting is better.
The main actress what else has she been in? Do you know?
I think the last thing I saw her in was, I think she was in that 47 Meters Down, I think.
She was really good in this.
Yeah, she's very good.
I think the acting overall was really good. She was really good. She was really convincing.
She really, her acting is great in the movie because while she's there in the mental institution, she sees an orderly who she thinks is her stalker, and the way that she acts in the movie is she's acting, or in terms of her performance, it's she's acting like somebody would in a situation like that, to a point, but at the same time, you're also sitting there as a viewer, like, not sure where the movie's gonna lead. Is this movie gonna lead to, like, okay, is it true? Is she wrongfully committed? Or is it gonna lead to something else? Is there gonna be some kind of twist here? Is she actually very, very crazy? And she's great at that with her performance, because for a while in this movie you are very, very unsure. And the supporting cast is great too. Jay Farrow plays a guy who she befriends in the institution, and I was thinking about A Cure for Wellness a lot in this. The acting is better in this movie. Overall, the characters are better too. Overall, I would say that this is a better movie. This is a better movie than A Cure for Wellness is, certainly, but this movie gets fucking stupid.
Which parts would you say?
Oh my god.
Which parts did you think were stupid?
okay, I was with a lot of this movie. This is about a 98-minute movie, and probably for the first hour, I was along for the ride of this film. I was curious about where it was going. I was really loving the acting. The gimmick, I like. I like how this movie is shot. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool that they did it that way. It provides a weird kind of intimacy to the audience. And when you find out what has, and I'll try to be very spoiler free on this to a point. When you find out what everything has kind of been leading up to and the reason for being, you probably find out about an hour into the 98-minute movie, maybe give or take a few. And when the reveal happens, it's just sort of like, okay, so I guess that's why. I was like, it's nothing like it's nothing really shocking, really, necessarily. It's just sort of like, okay, well, I guess this is why this has been happening. And when it's told, when that's told, it does, parts of it turn into a very sort of routine thriller.
Yeah, there's a character that gets killed off.
Oh, well, let's get to that. Like,
and I'm like, and he's never brought up again.
Wait, I think we're thinking of something else.
Oh, another character. There's two characters that get killed off.
Well, let's get to that a little later, because that provides a little bit of setup. But who are you thinking of?
I don't want to give away anything, but I was...
Are you...
the guy with the cell phone.
Oh, okay. No, he's brought up quite a few times later on.
Kinda. Not enough to, like, make him, like, a well-established character.
I disagree. His what happens to him is really what led to what happens to this institution in the last few minutes of the movie.
Well, because they flash, like, a thing that says... This guy was something.
It turns out he's something else, and that's telegraphed way early on into the movie.
But there was a part, I guess you want to leave it to...
No, but I mean, I'll set it up as opposed to just saying, like, and then this happens.
And then this happens, meanwhile.
But, one thing that... Do you know who that was playing the... It shows the stalker in the movie. She sees him as the orderly, and at first you don't know. It's like, is she just crazy here, or is that actually her stalker?
Yeah.
And it shows him in flashback, too. It shows everything that kind of led up to him just making life terrible for this woman. Do you know who that was?
Brian.
Other than Brian, it looks like Brian. It does look. That's why you haven't seen Brian lately. He's off in some institution somewhere, just stalking this poor woman. That was Josh from the Blair Witch Project.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I was like, that's really cool to see him in something. Like, I know Blair Witch Project is a polarizing movie. I still love the Blair Witch Project. And
I do too, yeah.
One of the things I like about that movie is how much the actors really carried that film. I thought all three of those actors were excellent, and I always kind of wanted to see them do other things beyond that. And I've seen Josh Leonard in a few things here and there, but he usually consistently looks really different in everything I see him in after the Blair Witch Project.
Well, he had these, like, pedo glasses on.
He's got this big beard in this.
I mean, I'm not saying Brian has pedo... He doesn't have, like, this pedo vibe. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, like, he does have those glasses that
Well, he does when you go 2 for Barbie Starlight Adventure. When we went to go see that movie. And he's got, like, slick back, early snob hair.
Yeah, I was like... Well, they did a lot of, like, like, when he was, whenever he was shown, the lighting was kind of from the back, so you...
I liked that.
Yeah, I liked that, too, it made him more, like, creepy, because it was shown from the lighting was shown from the back, and it made his face look, you couldn't really see his face. Mm-hmm. And whenever she had to take her medicine, he was the one that was handing it to her, and then... He'd be like, take your medicine or whatever, or medication, and the lighting, it was just so, it was up close and really creepy as fuck, and I thought that was really well shot.
No, I did admire that a lot about it. He is in shadow a lot when he's standing
shadowy,
there.
yeah.
And when this reveal happens in the movie, I was sitting there like, man, I just feel like this is going to get really just routine and just kind of turn into just this kind of thriller. And to a point, it does, but there are a couple of times where it works. There's a point where the villain and her are having this kind of long conversation with each other in this solitary confinement room. A lot of that I thought worked, because in that scene, I was sitting there like, okay, this dialogue that they're having between each other in this scene, he doesn't feel to me like a movie villain. In this scene, he feels like a real psychopath.
There was that was the scene where I was like, I started like kind of focusing on, because that was the scene that really took me in. I was like, this is really working for me, because she goes on like this long dialogue about how you don't know who I am. You don't know. You just are obsessed with me, basically. You just you just fantasize about me. And and then he's like, no, I know this about you, and he just has this idea of her. He's just obsessed with her, and she's just like, you don't know that I do this, and then that scene really, really, really worked for me.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good scene. And then that scene goes on for a while too, and she does a really convincing job.
They both do. They both do a really good job.
Also, she's like, there's a scene there, she's like, have you ever actually had sex with a woman before? Have you ever actually been with a woman? Or like stuff like that. And I thought that was kind of interesting, like, because it doesn't just focus on her, it also focuses on him, because it doesn't just make him a villain. It's like he's actually like,
it humanizes him.
It humanizes him, because she starts going on about like, why do you obsess about me, and
why do you obsess about me? Like, are you gonna love me for all the faults I have? Like, it's...
And he's like, no, like, you're not that. This is what you are.
That was good. And where it went before then was starting to not work. That scene kind of brought it around a little bit. But then after that, it starts not working again. And then it continues not working, and then it really continues not working until the end, where it still didn't work.
What do you mean by that? Like it?
Well, okay. For instance, there's a thing that happens in the last 10 minutes of this movie to this other character in the movie, this girl who is another patient there, and throughout the movie, this other girl and Claire Foy are constantly getting in these fights with each other, to the point to where I'm like, how is these people who are standing 5 feet away from her, these employees, not see that it's this other girl who's causing all of this shit? Like, this is seriously like this is not a well-run fucking hospital, to the point to where it's just fucking laughably stupid at times.
Yeah, because they got in a fight, like, and they put them side by side. They're like, all right, guys, break it up. And then they put them in the beds side by side. And I was like, you're just gonna put them next to each other after they get in a fight?
There are so many scenes where they're standing right there and they can see people practically assaulting Claire Foy. They're like, oh, Claire Foy, it's all your fault. So something happens to this character in the last act that made me like, at first I was like, I see what they're doing here, and now I get why this is happening. But then the final thing that happens to this character, I was like, I kind of don't give a shit about the lead character anymore.
Okay, there's a scene, and I'm not gonna give away too much, but there's a scene where she's trying to escape, and she uses this other girl as a way to escape. And
it made sense why she would want to do that, considering something this other girl has on her.
And then she doesn't, like, I mean, any human with any sort of sympathy or anything would let this person escape. But she just closes the door on her, and then he kills her.
It was laughable.
It was laughable because he breaks her neck.
I was sitting there like,
why don't you let her go? Like, why did you have to shut the door on her?
That was crazy. And when that happened, I was like, I don't give a shit what happens to this character now. And then it keeps going after that, and going and going. And I'm like, this needs to wrap itself up fast because it's just off the fucking rails. Not as off the rails as like Cure for Wellness got, but Cure for Wellness almost kind of embraced how fucking stupid it got near the end.
More than you did. But...
You did like that better than me, but like, I at least Cure for Wellness, I kind of appreciated how fucking dumb it got at the end because it was playing that with a straight face, and this movie does too, honestly. But I almost like I said, like. Cure for Wellness seemed to sort of embrace its stupidity near the end, whereas this one, I don't know, like they have this wrap-up scene that's straight out of Misery, only it starts out with this clunky exposition dialogue where the girl's like, so since you've gotten that promotion, and like...
Yeah, I was like, okay, so it says 6 months later. I was like, you went through all of that shit. 6 months later, she's like having casual lunch with her like friend, I guess. Is that her friend? Or
she was early. She was in the movie earlier on.
Yeah, well, she was like casually having lunch 6 months later. Remember, like 6 months later, after being tortured, she's casually having lunch like a normal person.
I understand that. Like,
I don't.
I do.
Why would
like,
you have casual lunch with someone?
Because she is putting her life back together, and she's got to eat lunch. Like,
no, but the way she was acting didn't seem like convincing.
Well, considering what happens at the end of that scene, I don't think.
Well, I guess she does. She has PTSD, which is like in the end of Misery. But because I don't know.
My main takeaway from that was like, one, that was done better in Misery, and also it just starts out with this really clunky exposition dialogue of the last 6 months, and I was like, wow, like 5 seconds you could have rewritten some of these lines. Jesus Christ. But the movie it reached a point where it was just not working for me, and when it just kept going and going along with it, I was like, it did really lose me. But the build-up I liked. I thought the movie was well made. It's a very well-acted movie.
I thought it was ambitious.
Yes, yeah, it certainly is.
What did you think of the woods scene where she was running away in the woods and then he says like, we could maybe have a family or...
That was when it was just turning into like a slasher movie.
I kind of liked it. Like, I thought that was kind of a cool scene where it got really creepy. It was like, maybe, like, because she's faking being dead, and she's just laying there, and I thought he was gonna rape her, and I was like, this is really unsettling. Like, I was really like kind of cringing a lot throughout this movie because I thought he was gonna rape her, and but he curls up next to her like obsessively, and that's even not even creepier. I mean, like, that's just like, ugh, like, I don't know, like, this man is unsettling as hell. But yeah, like, he's like, we can start a family together, maybe have a girl or something. And then obviously he's gonna die. Like, who thinks he's gonna live in this movie?
I mean, it started getting really gimmicky at that point where it was doing stuff in night vision. Oh, when it was doing things in night vision?
In night vision, right. Yeah.
When she was in the trunk. And then after that, I had reached a point at that woods scene where I was like, this just seems like just a really routine thriller at this point, and not a great one, and I thought it should have wrapped up about 10 minutes before then. I was kind of done with it at that point. But
I was kind of moving, like, I was kind of shaking my leg a little bit.
Yeah.
But that wood scene was unsettling for me, at least, and I thought that was kind of worth watching.
I thought the scene in the where they were having that back and forth in the solitary confinement room was way better.
No. I agree with you there. Like, I thought that scene was the one that did it for me. That's what sold me on that, on this movie, just on that scene alone. I wouldn't say I would watch it again. I wouldn't recommend anyone to watch it. Like, in theater. Like, in theaters, I wouldn't recommend that. Like, maybe on a rental, but I wouldn't. Like, just on that scene alone, I would say, like, it was worth it. If you wanted to rent. This is a
tough one.
It's tough. Like, I would say just that scene alone, I would say rent it.
No, at the very least, I would say it's a movie that's worth renting. As for seeing it in the theater, there is a lot of really good things about the movie. There are some very suspenseful moments. The acting is very good. It's great seeing Josh Leonard in something again. Claire Foy is an excellent lead. They do a lot of really clever stuff with the camera work, and also just shooting it in the way that they did. From a lot of that alone, I can be like, well, okay, if you see it like in a second run theater or as a cheap matinee, yeah, all right. There is enough good stuff about the movie. It just reached a point for me where I was like, this really started out great, and now I'm just kind of like, bah about it.
It was like, good, meh, good, meh. And then it was like, it kind of felt like that. It was like, this is good, really good, frustrating, and then good again, but yet frustrating. It kept on doing that, and I was like, all right.
Just watch Dario Argento's Unsane, or Tenebrae.
So I would say, like, for me, I would say it's a rental. Like,
sure.
Because there are really unsettling scenes that are in close-ups that are just so intimate, like, where you're like, ooh, like, I could see this man, like, stalking me. And there's things like that.
Well, we know Brian.
I just need to look at him.
We're eating dinner, and you just see Brian, like, at the end of this movie.
He's giving me medication.
Brian, put those away. Those are Tic Tacs. Everyone knows it. Stop trying to drug us. You're not going to get us to watch ATM again.
He just keeps giving me Tic Tacs. All right, now open your mouth and make sure that you swallowed them. Okay,
yes, I am reading this, by the way.
What did it say?
Someone in the chat was like, Brad's probably reading this right now.
Now open your mouth, Laura. Did you swallow those Tic Tacs like I ordered you to? Why do we hang out with this man?
He has free Tic Tacs.
Free Tic Tacs, I have to swallow them? I don't get to savor it, I just have to swallow them.
It melts in your stomach and the fresh breath just comes up as you're breathing out.
And he's like, now Laura, Tic Tacs.
Where does he get these? Did someone leave these to him in their will? This says like an endless supply. Like he bought some one time and one of them was rat poison and he worked out a deal with a Tic Tac company to get it free for life.
No, he spilled them on himself when he was at the movie theater. And then like Kramer.
That's why Brian hasn't been to the movies in a while, because he spilled a bunch of Tic Tacs and the movie theater banned him for bringing outside food.
No, if you boys bring in
other syrup.
Sorry, I was watching Seinfeld earlier, so now I have a bunch of Seinfeld references in my head.
If you boys bring
outside
maple syrup in here. All right, everyone.
Sorry, I just went on a tangent about Seinfeld references.
Hey, we do that all the time. All right, everyone. Thanks a bunch for watching. I know it's late, but thanks for hanging out in the chat with us. Tomorrow, I got fucking Sherlock Gnomes and Midnight Sun. I got those two tomorrow. Later on
I'm not gonna be in that. No, thank you.
Later on in the week is God's Not Dead 3. So see you guys soon. Bye.